All right. I think we are good to go. So we are going to go ahead and start our presentation today. Again, welcome. This is the first Power Hour of 2025. We do these monthly Power Hours, so please make sure you are joining us for those monthly. We will be sending out emails and also on our social medias of when those Power Hours will be happening. We try to make them relevant towards kind of topics that are happening in the industry and the time of year too. So again, welcome. We're going to today be talking about open house first aid, quick fixes for better results. A little bit before we get started, if you're new to Meeting Venue Help Desk, please scan this QR code. This is a great way, again, to learn about these power hours, to be in the know of any educational resources we're putting out there. Also, I am one of the co-founders. There's my husband in the photo, Ian Ramirez, and then we'll talk about Shannon Tarrant. They are also co-founders of Venue Help Desk. They speak around the country on specifically venue topics and really supporting our venues around the area. And also we have partners that are called helpers too, that can help with some of those venue resources needed. The purpose of Venue Help Desk, again, we want to help you attract quality customers through tools and resources that we provide. We want to convert those leads to bookings. We do that through educational programs. And also we want to optimize your operations. And those are those trusted helpers I was talking about. So if you need something, we have a helper that we can put in front of you to help solve those problems. For those meeting me for the first time, my name is Paul Pettie. I am a former marketer. I have a background. I started my career really with Walt Disney World in hospitality, and then went on into working in marketing for Capital One. I've worked in the hospital industry as well with Houston Methodist Hospital, which is a leading hospital here in Texas, and then also a world-renowned cancer center called MD Anderson. I am the business development director for our venue here in Conroe, Texas, called Madera Estates. When I joined the family business a little over going on 4 years now, I have helped generate over 2.5 million in sales. Some fun facts about me. Again, I am the director of business development. I'm a marketer, but I'm also a Disney adult. So shout out to any of those other Disney adults out there. I took my early career and we keep on going out to the parks and enjoying all of that. Also learning more about how Disney runs their hospitality as well. So let's get started. We're going to go over 3 main topics today when it comes in thoughts of your open house. I know a lot of y'all are in that open house world right now. You may have an open house coming up, or you're planning your first open house later down the road. So this presentation is meant for everyone. Hopefully that you'll take some key points from this, no matter where you are in the stage of your open house or learning. So we're going to talk first about planning and preparation. We're going to talk about those vendor partnerships. And then we will end with marketing strategies. So let's go into planning and preparation. I find this interesting when I talk to some of our venue friends. They're not setting goals when putting on their open house. They're basically just running an event, but no goals, clear-cut goals of really defining those success metrics. Those are things like, how many attendees are you wanting to have at your open house? How many people showed up versus those that actually registered, looking at those numbers. Also, the number of bookings at the open house, and then the number of bookings after the open house. We also at Madera Estates, our venue in Conroe, Texas, we really focus on those tours that were scheduled when we put together an open house. Also, something I find that a lot of venues really don't think about. They really just think about their sales team. You really need to look at your entire staff that's supporting the goals of the open house. How is your staff supporting the sales team? Where are they positioned? A lot of times sales teams are either just the owners, or you're lucky like us where we have a sales team at Madera Estates. What will happen is a lot of times your sales team are answering questions, welcoming, doing things like that can actually take time away from those guests coming to the open house. So you need to make sure you have people greeting everyone when they're coming in, people registering people that are coming in, people answering questions for you. Even for us at Madera Estates, we're a large venue. I need people around the venue just to get people from point A to point B, also explaining the key items of our venue. So really think about your staffing when putting together your open house. I always say, especially on our team, put yourself in the headspace of the couples that are coming to see you. Think about walking through that front door. What happens after that? Think about when they're in your ballroom meeting vendors. What happens during that time? Really think of all of those important aspects of the open house. Just don't throw a party. Really utilize your sales team and your staff to really help you make those goals that you've set. With that saying too, I think a lot of our venues miss this point. Communicate those goals. Even with our banquet staff that are supporting us at Madera Estates with our open houses, we communicate those goals to them so everyone's on the same page. Think of it almost like a pep rally too. You want to have a team meeting right before the open house doors open. Make sure everybody understands their goals, where they're positioned, what the agenda even is that night. A lot of times you may have a couple saying, hey, I heard there's going to be fireworks later tonight. What time did those things start? You want to make sure that your staff is aware of the agenda of that night, because they will be asked those questions. And I find that venues are successful when they have confidence staff members to be able to answer that. Your staff is really representing you when you're not able maybe to get in front of that couple because you may have a really busy open house. So really use your staff as an extension of you. Here's a quick fix. This is a very recent story that just happened. Again, we're in engagement season, busy with tours. I had a tour that came in this last weekend and told me that they went to an open house, and this was an open house at a very beautiful venue, fantastic staff. They're a competitor of ours, but the one thing this couple told me during kind of when we were learning about their goals for their wedding, they were telling me they went to this open house and there was no vendor representation. It was mostly just talking to not vendor, excuse me, the venue the people working the venue. There was no one to talk to through the venue. It was mostly vendors, and a lot of those vendors could not answer questions about the venue itself. So the couple felt that they were confused. They kind of gave up after kind of popping around through different spaces, asking questions, if we want to book a tour, or how does this, do you have a pricing guide? There were none of those items. And so talking to this couple this past weekend, you could feel the frustration. So think through those things. So quick fix, especially if you have an open house coming up, make sure you have a venue booth there so your prospective couples know where to find you and ask those questions. Also have a salesperson there too, really someone confident that can answer those questions and route them to the next point of the sales conversation. Next, choosing the right date and time. Right now, Madera Estates, we are currently not hosting an open house coming up, but if we were, one thing we would utilize is our local wedding shows to help promote. So our friends with the Bridal Extravaganza in Houston, one thing that we like to do is set our open house about 2 weeks after the Bridal Extravaganza. And then we'll have a booth there talking about our venue. And the goal is driving those couples to our open house 2 weeks later. I find that 2 weeks is a really good time to stay engaged with your couples. I find that they're okay with putting something on their calendar 2 weeks out and actually following up. I think when you're talking about your open house weeks or months out, you're going to lose interest. That couple is ready to book a venue, or they're ready to see your venue. So really kind of partner with those wedding shows, and then being top of mind about 2 weeks out after the wedding show if you're attending those. Another thing I just mentioned, we are in engagement season. A lot of you know between Thanksgiving and Valentine's Day, this is when our couples are getting engaged. Right now, we are swamped with tours at Madera Estates because my couples around Christmas, New Year's were engaged. So now they're ready to find the venue. And so they're on the hunt. Of course, we have Valentine's coming up as well, which will be another key date for those engagements to happen. So a suggested is have your open house around that time. Madera Estates, we would do an open house around engagement season. And then one of our slower seasons is late summer. That was another great time to host another open house if you're looking at doing multiple through the year for looking at the correct time to do it. Sundays. We have found at Madera State, Sundays are the ideal date for our open house. It's really great, especially right now. I mentioned it's snowing here in our area of Texas. This is off-peak season for us. It may not be off-peak season for you, but really focus on maybe scheduling an open house on a weekend, especially on a Sunday during off-peak when you have vendor availability, you have staff availability, and you're not hustling through trying to put on a wedding that weekend. Hot take time. Okay, this is a hot take. May not be everyone's hot take, but this is my hot take. No tours during the open house. So before I joined the Madera Estates team, I was actually supporting my husband kind of in the background with our open houses. And one thing that we found is when Madera started doing their open houses, they had where you could sign up for tours. Well, Madera doesn't have a ton of salespeople to give those tours. And our tours at Madera Estates last up to 2 hours. So again, if my husband is giving a tour, he's off with that couple giving that tour. He's not out engaging with the rest of the couples. So we have found that if we can try to drive them into maybe a phone call after the open house or setting up a tour later with them, that is a great way for us to talk to them one-on-one instead of in the atmosphere of crowds and meeting vendors. So again, my hot take, no tours at the open house. We tested and it worked very well. Our open houses can get noisy because we have you could have up to 300 attendees there. You have a room full of vendors. So one thing that we did that we found if we wanted to educate our couples, but in a loud environment, is we partnered with our local DJ who also has a silent headphone DJ company. This is a great way that you can have a vendor booth, your own vendor booth, representing your venue. We set up a space of about 15 chairs, and then every 30 minutes, we would invite prospective couples to come sit down, put these headsets on. You can see my husband in the photo there giving the presentation. I'm in the background signing up couples or passing out collateral that they may be asking about. But it was a good way to really give a high level experience for your guests, having some questions like, do you allow outside vendors? Do you have an open bar element? Can I bring in my own cake? So Ian was hitting those high level questions that we normally get. So that way, when we follow up with the couple later on, right after the open house, they pretty much understand our services, but it's a great way to do it in a large group setting. Select a theme. This is very important. You want to stand out from the other venues. On my Instagram, I'm getting a lot of invites for these the local open houses coming up. What really stands out to me is when they have a theme, the theme that really sets them apart from the other venues. So here at Madera Estates, we are a hacienda style venue, very Spanish inspired. So what really looks good for our venue is creating more of a moody look. So we love to light a ton of candles around our venue during the open house, especially if we're having an evening open house. So we even put more candles out than normal. And then we'll create a theme around that, like candlelight dreams. We've hosted a white linen nights in our August time here in Texas. It can be 90 degrees at night. So we want our guests to come dressed light and bright during that time. So really think through your theming. If you're struggling with your theme, I'll talk more about that in a moment. We do have a solution for that. Pick a theme that your audience cares about. Example, does Gen Z identify more with lavender haze or roaring 20s? Really understand the capabilities of your venue, of the theming it can produce, but also what your audience is looking for. So pay attention to those things. And I mentioned, if you're struggling with coming up with your theme for the open house, maybe you are on a lake and you want to create more of that environment. We have a list that we'll talk more about. It's from the open house marketing playbook. We have a list of 50 themed open house ideas to help inspire you. So you don't get stuck. I'll talk more about that at the end of our presentation. And I mentioned this earlier, we have, especially our August open house. The thing that we battle with that open house is that it's in August, it's in the summer, it's hot. So we don't want our guests to feel miserable as they're looking maybe for their spring-like wedding, but they're visiting our August open house. So we make it fun. We have everyone, including our vendors, our staff, all dress in white linen. The first time we ever did this, we were worried. You know, we wanted to make sure our vendors were at least dressed and our staff was dressed, but it was insane how many of our guests came in white linen. These kids are fun. They want to have a fun time with your venue. So it gives them an opportunity to also dress up, play the part. And we also find that that's a micro commitment too. When you see a guest dressed in linen, they're going to be interested in your venue. So that even helped me kind of target on who we needed to talk to that night as we work the room. So again, pick a theme, pick an attire that matches your venue, and think about the season too. Okay, a big question we get, how to partner with the right vendors for the open house. Not all vendors are going to be the perfect match. So how do you know if they're the right fit? These are questions we ask of our own vendors when we're starting, even to look at our preferred vendor list. We'll go through these questions because even though they're on the preferred vendor list, they may, again, not be the right match. You really want your vendors to also showcase their talents to really reflect your venue. So questions you need to ask. What vendors are a great match for your open house? Do their services and style complement your venue? Also, will they collaborate for cross promotion? One of our photographers, she has been with us all 14 years at Madera Estates. She has a huge Instagram following and social media presence. So she is an awesome partner of ours. So when we're having an open house, she will promote that through her stories. And we get a lot of traction from that, of those prospective couples, because they're also checking her out too, because she's a well-known wedding photographer. So really think about those vendors that have those great Instagram handles and followings that will be that partner for you. If you are struggling to figure out if that vendor is the right fit, this is a freebie. I'll give you a moment. Scan this QR code. This is a vendor application. It will go through and ask some questions of the vendor, especially when you get those vendors kind of out of the blue asking, hey, I want to be at your open house. Maybe you're overwhelmed with that, saying yes or no. This application is a great way to sort those vendors. And if a vendor really wants to be at your open house, they'll fill it out. If they're not filling it out, they're not dedicated to your venue or your open house. So this is a great resource. Again, scan this. You'll also find some free resources at the venuehelpdesk.com website if you're stuck on certain aspects of planning for your venue. So again, please check that out. Also, are your vendors supporting your goals? One thing to help them support your goals is a vendor marketing kit. As I mentioned earlier, use your vendor's sphere of influence. Create tools for your vendors to market the event. So just don't tell them about that you're having the open house. Provide tools that makes it easy for them to post on their story, post on their social media networks. So do a little work for them. And we have found that when you do that ahead of time, they're so much more likely to share than you asking them to create something for your open house. Also, suggest timelines for the vendors to market. You want your vendors to be on the same path as you as promoting this, so it all makes sense. I call it a layered approach. So if I'm seeing a Facebook ad for my open house, but then I see a photographer promoting it, it all kind of goes together. It layers it so that couple will say, yep, this is going to be a great open house to go to. If you are stuck on this too, I'll talk more about this. This is going to be on our open house marketing playbook. We have a section in there called What to Include in a Vendor Marketing Kit. So again, you don't have to come up with these. We have the tools and resources to do that for you. Again, vendors supporting your goals. One thing that's important is communication prior to the open house. You want to over communicate with your vendors. Just don't invite them, give them a time and expect them to come without causing any chaos if you haven't, really set the stage for them. So things that you can do is really be clear on the setup time, the teardown time. The worst thing you can have is having an open house and you still have an hour left and your vendor is packing up. So you want to really make sure they understand the timeline of the evening and the expectations. So we don't want to see a vendor packing up an hour before. That looks like they're disinterested. So again, make that clear for them. Also load in and load out instructions. You may have a vendor that's with you all the time, but maybe they're sending a new rep. Make sure that they know where they're loading in and loading out. So again, you are focused on your venue that day. You're not focused on the chaos of a vendor setting up. Communicate expected guest count leading up. So again, if you're working with someone that's passing out items, maybe they have collateral they're passing out, maybe it's a caterer that you've partnered with, really keep them up to speed on what your expected guest count is and then what's the actual guest count so they can prepare for that leading up to the event. Also, provide an agenda for the open house. You want to set expectations. Your vendors are just as important as your sales team. So again, you want to really talk about your goals, what you're expecting from the open house, really get your vendors on the same page. That's why it's really important to find the right vendors because you want those vendors to represent you at the open house. It's too noisy if they're not, right? Everyone's focused on this vendor there, this vendor there. If you are not all kind of singing the same song, it can be really difficult of getting a couple to say, yep, this is the venue I want to book. Again, so we're talking about the communication leading up. Now it's the communication the day of the open house. At Madera Estates, my husband put this together. I was so proud because it made our day of getting ready for the open house so much easier because again, he provided communication to our vendors when they walked right in the door setting up. So one thing that he did, he labeled all of our vendor tables. So you may not be at the front door when they walk in. They may just be very comfortable with your venue, walk in. You want them to walk in, see the ballroom if you have tables set up and know exactly where they're going to go. So put a sign on the table. So again, you don't have someone setting up in the wrong space and then and have that vendor battle of trying to move someone to the appropriate areas. Also, just like we do for weddings, provide a day of details for your vendors. You want to include important things like the venue contact, cell phone numbers. It doesn't even just have to be your cell phone number. Maybe you have assigned one of your staff members because again, you've already pre-planned what everyone's staff roles are. So maybe you have a staff member you've assigned to the vendors to just help them get through the evening. So make sure their cell phone and role and name are included in that. Also the who's who. A lot of times your vendors are sending reps that have never been to the venue. So make sure they know who's who because they may be asking or a couple may ask them. So make sure they're familiar with your venue. Also, have a map of your venue and where all the vendor tables are placed. So you may have a couple come up to one of your vendors and say, "Hey, I heard there was a certain makeup artist. Do you know where they are tonight?" You want to be able for, again, that vendor to be a person for you to direct that client or that couple to the appropriate area. So give them confidence. I find that so important in the sales process is we want everyone to feel that confidence when they walk into your venue, and that's including with your vendors too. Another thing too, we provided an agenda. So at Madera Estates, we had different things going off throughout the night. We may have had mariachis welcoming. We may have had a cigar rolling cigars at a certain time. The big thing I love, especially our nighttime open houses, is we have fireworks. And a lot of the couples come to see those fireworks. So make sure you have an agenda. So if they go up to one of your vendors and say, "Hey, what time is the fireworks show?" Your vendor can confidently answer that question or have a resource for them if they're not able to, that they can quickly present that to your couple. Quick fix. Number one question that your vendors are going to get, your staff will get, is where are the restroom? So again, remember, you may have a new rep in your venue. So make sure they're really clear on that because your couples see them as a part of the venue. So they may not be able to find you to ask where the restrooms are. So they may go up to your makeup artist and say, "Hey, do you know where the nearest restrooms are?" Make sure those vendors know that. Another quick fix, passwords to the Wi-Fi, especially if you're in a big metal building or you're in an area where you don't have great cell service, your couples are going to ask, especially as they're looking at things on their phone while going through the open house. Make sure they know your Wi-Fi password. So make sure all the vendors know that as well. Hot take time. Open houses are not just for prospective couples. Absolutely. One thing at Madera States that we would host, say if we were hosting an open house from 5 to 8 o'clock, from 5 to 6, we just open it up to our already booked couples. We would give them lanyards that said VIP on them. We would give them their own bag because they're going to be picking up collateral information from our vendors. Also in that bag, we have a venue rental company that's attached to Madera Estates. One thing that we want to do is encourage them to start renting items from us. So we would put a gift card in there, just a $150 gift card. Sometimes it's a percentage off. So again, they're going to be interested in our rentals, but they also felt like they received something that night to encourage them to do so. And then the rest of the evening, your prospective clients coming through the front door, they would come in later that night. What I found is there was a FOMO too. So as the new couples are coming in, they're seeing your current couples wearing these lanyards that say VIP on them. They see these bags. They may have heard that we gave them a special gift card. So then your prospective clients see how well you treat your current clients. I think that's a huge marketing piece that a lot of venues are missing out on. So use your current couples to help you market as well. And they are your biggest fans. So they're going to help those couples book as well. Another thing, interactive key venue areas. You want to create interactive experiences in relationship to your venue space, encouraging couples to explore. This was something that Madera Estates was struggling with. We're a large property. We were finding that our couples would spend 2 hours with us and never see a getting ready room. They didn't see, we have an area that's a lounge called a bonus room. They would never see that space. And I was always so confused why they weren't seeing these spaces. But what they were doing is hanging out in our main ballroom all night, not realizing those spaces were open. So if you make it interactive, they're going to explore those places. So things like include demos in your getting ready rooms. Like we always have a makeup artist applying lashes, right? For free. It gives your vendor something for your guests to experience, also to build trust too, but it also encourages those couples to go see those getting ready rooms that they may would have missed. Another thing we've also offered, especially in another one of our suites, we would have a barber in there just doing like neck shaves. I may have a gentleman looking for a barber. Those is a great way to meet that barber, again, build that trust. But again, for the venue side of it, I now have that couple seeing the one of my getting ready rooms. Lounge areas. At Madeira Estates, we have a ton, I call them conversational corners, but we have lounge areas throughout our space. So we also want the couples to experience that. So one thing we do, we have a cigar roller. It's one of our vendors. He's out there rolling, doing demonstrations, even giving cigars away. Also, I've had, especially for my South Asian weddings, I've had a henna artist hang out. She was just doing small little tattoos on all of the couples. Again, your couples are interacting with your vendors, but they're also getting kind of that surprise and delight, something to take home. And then it's also serving another purpose for you, for them to explore the venue. This is my favorite. This is something that really helped Madeira Estate. So I mentioned that we are a hacienda style venue. We love our couples to feel like they're on a destination wedding while they're with us in Conroe, Texas. One way we played off of our theme is we gave couples a passport to Madeira Nights. And it was for all of our couples. We had 2 drawings that we did for our prospective couples, giving them some money towards our venue, rental items. And then for our couples that are looking, we also had a contest for them. So what it did was it encouraged them to basically gamify their experience. So on the passport, we had different areas like our check-in area. That's how we trained them to do this. The first thing when they walked in, one of my staff members gave them the passport, explained the passport, told them, what they could be winning, encouraging them to go to those getting ready rooms. And then we stamped it right there. So then they know, okay, I'm going to get this stamped. And then we had different staff members set up in different venue spaces. So when they went into our whiskey lounge, they were able to get a stamp. When they went into our champagne suite, they were able to get a stamp. We found that problem we were having for our couples to see our entire space was no longer. So this is a great way to think about, again, your theming, your venue. How can you gamify it so your couples get excited and explore? Marketing your open house, my favorite subject, because this is my background. Let's talk about your email list. So we have found that when we start about 4 weeks out with your email campaigns, this is enough time to create the interest and the buy-in. We feel like going further out than that, they may lose interest. Less time, they may not be able to have it on their calendar. So 4 weeks is a great kind of best practice for your email list and campaigns. Email your list and your funnels through your CRM. You also want to create clear deadlines to RSVP. The reason I say that is because you may have a caterer coming, again, a vendor supplying items. We want to know the exact or close to what we expect of the couples coming, so we can ensure we have the right supplies and staffing for our open house, so we're not overwhelmed. Also, too, we'll mention this again, the open house marketing playbook. A lot of my vendors will reach out to us about like a sample email marketing campaign. This guide will have that in there for you. So again, we have that in the book if you're struggling through what does that email campaign even look like. So now you've had the lead book or RSVP your open house. So what do we do with those leads? So one thing, we want to keep them engaged because especially our Gen Z audience, we want to keep them focused. We want to keep them excited. So we're going to send a confirmation email that sets those clear expectations, things like theme, attire. So again, that's how I believe that we were able to get our prospective couples to dress in white for our open house, is because we told them to dress in white. We made it fun. We gave them even samples of what attire looks like. And I also think that creates less of the friction, because they don't have to guess what the attire will be. You've set that clear expectation. Also, if you know your vendors that are coming, highlight them, talk about them, talk about the makeup artist putting lashes on in your getting ready rooms, talk about that barber, talk about the cigar roller. Again, it's not just an open house, it's an experience for them. And then offer, this is something we found highly successful, especially since we do not offer tours during the open house, but this helped answer some questions on budgeting and where they would fall within the range of what they could spend within Madeira Estates. So offer a pre-proposal. Have your RSVPs provide just the basics. That's all we need. Again, guest count and wedding date. That will tell us a lot. And then create a range of what they could be spending based off of that guest count and wedding date. All venues do it differently. Some of us have packages, some of us have a la carte services, some of them are just venue only. So really tailor this to yours. But what it's doing is giving you that crystal ball of those couples that are coming in the door to make sure they're the right fit, but also when they walk away, they know they're the right fit too, because you've set that. The way we handle the pre-proposals is you do have to set a deadline. And so this has to be emailed very clearly to the couple, provide like an end date of when they can submit that pre-proposal, because you want to have time to look at it. You also want to have time to prepare your sales team. And then we create folders with the couple's names that have submitted that. So when they come to check-in, we can give them that folder upon arrival. Hot take time. Advertising your promotions attracts the wrong audience. I 100% believe in this. We have tested it out multiple ways within our own vendor or our own venue. And I find that when we start offering discounts and sales right before they come in, it's going to attract more of your tire kickers and not the actual audience that needs to do business with you. Social media. Again, this may be preaching to the choir for some of you, but leverage Instagram, leverage Facebook, and leverage those popular platforms when you are planning for your open house. That is where your couples are. We are in the digital age. Also, don't forget about those wedding Facebook groups. A lot of times wedding Facebook groups will let you share about your open house because they need that content. So make sure you're sharing on those groups about that. Also, I mentioned about our photographer that has a huge following. So tag vendors to utilize their influence, especially in for Instagram stories. And then create easy links for your RSVPs. You want your guests to find you easily. So don't make it a challenge that they have to go through multiple websites or pages to find information about your open house. Quick fix. One thing you can do today, especially if you have an open house coming up, look at your Instagram. Do you have a link in the Instagram bio for those prospective couples to RSVP to your open house? Really quick fix. Do that today if you don't. My philosophy about any kind of marketing, you always want to have a layered approach. You may have a mom looking at a magazine. You may have the daughter looking at, social media. So we want to make sure that you're hitting kind of all areas of marketing when thinking about your open house. One thing, especially locally, utilize your wedding magazines and wedding directories. Use those opportunities, like in your print relationships. You may have built into your contract, or if not, you can add this in. A lot of those wedding magazines have community calendars where brides and grooms are looking for upcoming open houses. So see if you can post on there. A lot of times you can post for free on there if you're already advertising. Also utilize their social posts. You may have an agreement with your print that you get so many social posts a year. Don't forget about those. Use those social posts really for your open house. Also, they may produce newsletters or an email blast that will go out. So again, if you haven't been paying attention to your contracts, you may have them in there. Pull those up. They're a great resource. Also, use your online directory, such as like Zola and the Knot. Go on there, change your cover photos to promote your open house. Easy. Just log in and do that. This is not something you need to contact them to do. You can do it on your own. So again, couples are out there searching. They just may be searching your venue and then see that you have an open house. So I mentioned this throughout our conversation today. One thing Venue Help Desk has put together, it's called the Open House Marketing Playbook. Especially if you're lost about those top questions you need to ask yourself. I mentioned that it includes the 50 open house theme ideas, also includes 3 must for promotions on social media that you must do, a sample email marketing campaign with even the dates and topics that you need to be providing as you're planning that out. And then also what to include in that vendor marketing kit. A lot of you, this may be the first time to do this. This marketing playbook or open house playbook is a fantastic resource. And there's also some other ideas in there, especially if you're wanting to really up your open house, or even if you're great at open house, maybe these are some suggestions that where you can tweak and fine tune. Never be comfortable, always trying to really make sure you're maximizing and improving. So we do sell this. It is on our website. If you want to grab this QR code, this will go directly over to how you can purchase the Open House Marketing Playbook. It is just $37. Just this purchase, it's going to be a huge benefit, especially if you are struggling with your open houses. That's a really low investment to get some of these key ideas. Or maybe, again, you're a veteran at this and want to refine some of those tools. $37, not a huge investment. So again, I'll give everybody a moment to grab this. Also, too, as you're grabbing this, make sure you're checking out our website. We do have free resources on there that may be topics and tools that you're needing coming up, especially starting in 2025. Check those out as well. Also, for those that may have joined us late, or you want to go back and watch this or past power hours, join our Facebook group. Here's a QR code for that. This is a group that, again, we'll post upcoming power hours. We'll post hot topics, tips, also educational resources. And then where Shannon, Ian, or myself are speaking, you can find details there. So again, join that Facebook group to stay in the know. To stay in the know, we will do this monthly for our power hours, and our next power hour will be on Tuesday, February 18th at 1 p.m. Ian Ramirez, my husband, is going to be presenting Copy That, the essential copy and templates to convert your venue leads. So save the date for that. More information will be coming through our socials and through our email to you about how to register and topics that we'll be talking around there. Don't miss that presentation. So let's move into open discussion. I know we just threw a lot of information at you guys. Let's talk through some of those questions. I do have both of my helpers, Shannon and Ian, in the chat today too. I know they've been providing some helpful links and answering those questions already. So let's look at some questions here.
So Olympia has one from Majestic Gardens. Just wondering, do you have vendors at the open house or is it just for the couples?
Say that one more time. So do we just have vendors at the open house?
Yes, so Olympia from Majestic Gardens in Rocky Point, New York. Just wondering, do you have vendors at the open house or is it just for the couples?
So are you so bringing in new vendors to experience your open house? Is that the question? I would assume. For me and for how Madera Estates does it, we use our preferred vendor list that we've already built. Now, you may be a newer venue and discovering those. So open houses are great ways to test those vendors out. You just want to really make sure to vet them because, again, the vendor is a representation of you, and you're putting those vendors in front of your prospective couples. So you want trust through your vendor as well, because if it's not the right fit, then that can also be not the right fit for the couple for your venue too. All right, some other questions.
Aaron Smith asks, when it comes to sharing discounts and promotions, do you mean not sharing them in any of the initial emails?
You can, so we've sometimes teased that there will be, but what you don't want is to put like direct promotions up before being able to speak to those clients. We have found it is better. You have a better audience when you present those promotions at the open house to get them to sign, whether if it's a follow-up in the next week, or a monthly promotion that you're doing, because that gives you the chance to be in front of that couple. I think when you're presenting sales or discounts, it also discounts your venue.
And then Deborah White asks, how many of each vendor category works best?
Oh, that's a good question, Deborah. So, how many vendors work best for an open house? I think that all depends on the size that you have too for your venue. I have found that you need to have at least some food being served. So a great caterer. Maybe you have your own bar or you have a bar service that you can provide. I think that's great. So think about you're coming to a party. So what are things that you're looking for at the party? So food, beverage. I think that's main. Then also to something at Madera States, we do not package in our photographers. I find it helpful not just to have one photographer, but multiple types of photographers. You have photographers that are all different price ranges, styles, personalities. So I love a good mix of, having multiple photographers. Same thing with hair and makeup. You at least need to have one. If you want to have two, of course, I wouldn't station them next to each other. That gives the variety, especially your bride's a groom of color, maybe more focused on a certain makeup artist than someone not of color. You want to have that variety so the couple does see themselves within your venue. I also love, the types of things that are interactive, like cigar rolling, the barber I mentioned. We are lucky we have a vendor that has alpacas that can be used in the wedding. So when she is available, especially for an open house, I love to have the alpacas there because it creates a photo moment for those couples to take photos with them, and they're more than likely going to tag your venue in those photos. So then it also helps market out too. So have those kind of like surprises and delights. And then one thing that we do really, one thing that our couples love to book from us are fireworks. We have a beautiful fireworks backdrop over our main ceremony site. So that is almost an event in itself within the event. So we always do a fireworks show. So be thinking about that. Again, put yourself in the shoes of your couple and then go from there. What kind of event would you want to be at? And that's what I find when the question about discounts and things like that really highlight what's going to be happening at the open house, not the discounts. All right. Any more
Okay.
questions?
We have from Aaron, should it be an open bar or cash bar? I have seen both.
Ooh. For us, again, I'm welcoming them to a private party that is at our venue. So for me, it's an open bar. It all depends on the services that and your area too, of kind of the liquor laws and things like that. I want to come to an event where I'm not paying to be there. That's why it's called an open house. If you need to do just a specialty bar that night, maybe you do that, or just a white bar. But if the bar is one of, like at Madera Estates, that is our main moneymaker. That is, they purchase the liquor package through my venue because we have the liquor license. I'm going to have an open bar because I want them to experience that.
Holly has a question. We haven't done a vendor open house before. Anyone out there that has a more destination wedding? They're an hour or two ways or two from major cities in Colorado. Concerned with attendance. Just curious, heard of any success stories from other vendors similar to our location?
Gosh, that is a great question, even for our social media that we could post about. Again, it goes back to the point. I know not all of our venues are close to a major city. It does take a commitment for a couple to drive out to see them. I think that's even why it's so much more important to have that correct vendor mix and really promote that vendor mix, because you don't want it to be a waste of their time to come see you, especially if they're driving an hour out. We are located next to a Houston, a large city, but in traffic, it can take over an hour to come see us here at Madera Estates. So again, that is why it's important for me to make sure that the prospective couples know that I'm going to have a fireworks show, I'm going to have an open bar, I'm going to have light bites. We just don't also just invite the couple. They get so many passes too in their RSVP, so they can bring parents too if needed. So yeah, I mean that's kind of my take on that. Again, make sure they understand what's going to be happening at your open house. It's not just an open house with vendors, but what are the kind of what I call a carrot? What's the carrot to get them to come see you? And a lot of times that's vendor activation.
Britta asks, any tips for venues that are seasonal? We're an outdoor venue, so winter our tent is down. Would it still be worth it of doing an open house?
Again, this is going to, again, seasonal, like we all have different seasons, temperatures. For that, and Ian, you may have some take on this. I think if you're going to do it during an off season, you need to make sure to have some really great photos of your venue out and about so people can see that, so people can imagine the space for you. I'm imagining too, if you have a couple coming to look at your venue, they know your seasons too. So they know if you're a venue in a climate where y'all actually don't even host weddings because it's so snowy, they're going to know that as well and be able to imagine that. So again, you want to set the stage, especially for the Gen Zers, the researchers. They want to see what your venue. So right now, here's kind of something I'm doing. This isn't for the open house, but I'm doing this during my tours. Our venue is beautiful, but in January, it is not as lush. The trees are not full of leaves. So I've made sure to pull photo albums. So when I'm on the tour, when I have the couples sitting down with me, and I step away to either put a proposal together, I leave those photo albums out, but I show them the photo album of the venue of what it looks like during the time of year they're looking at too. So again, I want to paint the picture for them. And I have found that has been a huge help with me trying to sell the venue in January. January has been my highest month of sales too, but I find that it is not the prettiest time of our venue like it is in the spring and fall too. So I think it's really, again, put yourself in the headspace of your couples. If you were coming to the venue, what do you want to see? Especially if it's a snowy time, but you're looking at a spring wedding.
Okay, we have time for one more question.
One more question.
Are you charging your vendors to have a space?
We do not. I know that's a hot take too. I have preferred vendors. So the vendors complement my venue. So I need them there because a lot of times we make commission off of our vendors. So I have not actually, we do not charge for a vendor to be there. I think that also when you charge for a vendor to be there, there's also a certain expectation from that vendor that they're going to get so many leads and so many sales off of your open house. So I use caution in that because that's another layer that you're going to have to be concerned with, not only just getting your couples to book with us, now also satisfying that vendor to make sure that their numbers are also great too, if they've bought a space. All right. Well, thank y'all for the questions. Again, if you have any direct questions, and we will follow up on these, just email us at hello@venuehelpdesk.com. We're happy to answer those questions. We have helpers on there. Myself, Ian, and Shannon are checking that email regularly and can help navigate those too. Or we may have tools or helpers to support you even with those questions. So please, again, hello@venuehelpdesk.com for any of those additional questions. Again, my name is Paul Pettie. Here's all of our social media handles. Here's that email address I was just talking about too. So take a screenshot of that. That is a great resource for questions even after this and in the future with us. Again, thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next month at next month's Power Hour, led by Ian Ramirez on Zoom here. I hope these open house tips, no matter where you are on the journey of your open house, whether it's next week or not until next year, that you're able to take away something from today's Power Hour. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of the day.